An engineer is automating workspace creation for a secure environment that uses managed virtual network isolation. The deployment fails with an error stating that the subscription is not registered to use the namespace Microsoft.network, even though the resource group and region are valid. What is the best next action? Option A, register Microsoft.container registry and rerun the deployment. Option B, grant reader on the key vault to the workspace name before creation. Option C, move the storage account to a different Azure region than the workspace. Option D, register the Microsoft.network resource provider in the subscription. The correct answer is option D, register the Microsoft.network resource provider in the subscription. A central ML platform team runs separate dev, validation, and prod workspaces with tight change control. They want one approved environment supply chain, explicit version promotion, and minimal drift across workspaces, while still supporting private networking and future rollback. Which design is the best fit? Option A, promote approved environment versions through a registry and reference explicit versions. Option B, use only curated environments because custom environments cannot be reused across workspaces. Option C, duplicate workspace local environments and reference at latest in every stage. Option D, install packages directly on compute clusters and document them outside Azure ML. The correct answer is option A, promote approved environment versions through a registry and reference explicit versions. A platform team stores bicep files for an Azure machine learning workspace, storage account, key vault, and container registry in a GitHub repository. They want provisioning to run automatically after approved changes reach the protected branch, and they do not want long-lived Azure secrets stored in the repository. Which approach should they use? Option A, run notebook jobs that create resources interactively from Azure Machine Learning Studio. Option B, manually build each environment in the portal, export templates afterward, and reuse those exports. Option C, use OIDC-authenticated GitHub Actions to deploy bicep from protected branches. Option D, launch training pipelines that create infrastructure before each experiment. The correct answer is option C, use OIDC-authenticated GitHub Actions to deploy bicep from protected branches. A team deletes the wrong Azure Machine Learning workspace during a production cleanup window. The workspace used shared enterprise storage, key vault, and monitoring resources that the team does not want removed, and the organization had soft delete enabled for the workspace. What is the most accurate expectation? Option A, recover the soft deleted workspace and keep the dependent services in place. Option B, recreate the entire resource group because workspace deletion automatically removes every dependent service. Option C, restore the workspace from Azure Container Registry because registry recovery rebuilds the workspace metadata. Option D, use Azure Machine Learning Studio to undelete the workspace directly from the workspace home page. The correct answer is option A, recover the soft deleted workspace and keep the dependent services in place. An enterprise uses one GitHub repository for Azure Machine Learning Platform IAC. Security requires no long-lived Azure credentials, pull requests must show proposed infrastructure changes without applying them, and production applies must wait for approval before creating or modifying resources. Which design is the best fit? Option A, OIDC GitHub Actions with PR what if and approved main deployment. Option B, let data scientists provision shared resources from notebooks and review the portal afterward. Option C, run nightly training jobs that recreate the workspace and attached services from SDK code. Option D, store a subscription-wide service principal secret in the repo and deploy from any branch. The correct answer is option A, OIDC GitHub Actions with PR what if and approved main deployment. A review board needs to compare 6 completed training jobs before deciding which candidate should move forward. They want to inspect metrics, parameters, and tags side by side, and they also want to save the comparison so the same layout can be reused at the next review. What should the team do? Option A, export outputs for spreadsheet review. Option B, register every run before reviewing. Option C, compare selected jobs in Studio. Option D, send run logs to Azure Monitor. The correct answer is option C, compare selected jobs in Studio. A reviewer opens a side-by-side comparison and notices that one run shows val_accuracy, another shows validation_accuracy, and a third shows only accuracy. The compare table is rendering them as separate rows instead of aligning them as one shared metric. What is the most likely cause? Option A, the runs used different compute SKUs. Option B, metric names were logged inconsistently. Option C, the workspace is missing Azure Monitor alerts. Option D, the jobs were compared from one experiment. The correct answer is option B, metric names were logged inconsistently. A document processing team must score millions of PDFs every night, run a pre-processing step before model inference, and write results back in bulk after the run finishes. The workload can take several hours, inputs already reside in cloud storage, and the team wants a managed Azure ML deployment pattern rather than building its own orchestration layer. Which design is the best fit? Option A, use a batch endpoint with a pipeline component deployment on Azure ML Compute. Option B, use a managed online endpoint with one deployment and increase request timeout. Option C, use a managed online endpoint and invoke it once per file from a scheduler. Option D, use a local online endpoint for debugging and keep it as production. The correct answer is option A, use a batch endpoint with a pipeline component deployment on Azure ML Compute. A company places Azure machine learning behind restrictive network controls. Users can sign into the workspace and see notebook files, but notebook sessions fail to connect properly and interactive Jupyter behavior does not work. What is the best next action? Option A, allow WebSocket connections to the Azure ML instance domains. Option B, give all notebook users owner on the workspace. Option C, recreate the workspace with a different default storage account. Option D, move all notebook files into the model registry. The correct answer is option A, allow WebSocket connections to the Azure ML instance domains. A fraud detection service must return scores in under 300 milliseconds for each transaction. Payloads are small JSON requests from an application API. The team wants a fully managed deployment model, and they also want to support progressive traffic shifting between model versions later. Which deployment approach best meets the requirement? Option A, use a batch endpoint with a model deployment on a compute cluster. Option B, use a batch endpoint with a pipeline component deployment. Option C, use a managed online endpoint with an online deployment. Option D, run a scheduled batch job and persist predictions for later lookup. The correct answer is option C, use a managed online endpoint with an online deployment. A GitHub Actions workflow successfully signs into Azure by using OIDC and begins deploying a bicep template for an Azure machine learning workspace. After private networking is added, the deployment fails with an authorization error on virtual networks/subnets/join/action, even though the same workflow previously deployed the non-networked version successfully. What is the most likely cause? Option A, the runner lacks a local bicep CLI installation. Option B, Azure Machine Learning Compute quota is exhausted. Option C, the GitHub identity is missing required network permissions. Option D, managed online endpoint auth is set to key mode. The correct answer is option C, the GitHub identity is missing required network permissions. A company needs synthetic datasets for multilingual fine-tuning across several regulated business units. The design must avoid storing protected production chats in the training corpus, support regeneration when task taxonomies change, keep lineage across dataset releases, and block tuning jobs unless the candidate corpus passes quality and safety review. Which design is the best fit? Option A, let each product team generate XML files in notebooks and upload them directly into fine-tuning jobs. Option B, store generated corpora only inside source control to preserve history. Option C, Save the corpus on a shared compute instance and promote by email approval. Option D, use a version generation pipeline with governed data assets and evaluation-based promotion gates. The correct answer is option D, use a version generation pipeline with governed data assets and evaluation-based promotion gates. A managed online deployment is receiving bursts of traffic and some requests are failing with HTTP 429. The team has already verified through load testing that the model can safely process 4 requests concurrently on each node, CPU utilization remains low, and the deployment currently uses max_C1. What is the best next action? Option A, convert the workload to a batch endpoint. Option B, increase max_concurrent_requests_per instance. Option C, add mini_batch_size to the online deployment. Option D, change the endpoint authentication mode. The correct answer is option B, increase max_concurrent_requests_per instance. An enterprise wants 2 different trigger paths for one production model. If serving latency spikes, the operations team should be paged immediately. If the model monitor detects drift or performance degradation beyond a threshold, a retraining workflow should start automatically. Which design is the best fit? Option A, use only workspace-backed MLflow. Option B, use only Azure monitor alerts. Option C, poll logs nightly and retrain manually. Option D, split monitor and monitor trigger paths. The correct answer is option D, split monitor and monitor trigger paths. A team added variants to 2 different LLM nodes in the same prompt flow and ran a single batch evaluation. The metrics moved, but reviewers cannot tell whether the gain came from the retrieval answering prompt, the summarization prompt, or the interaction between both changes. What is the best next action? Option A, promote the run with the highest score because the source is irrelevant. Option B, rerun the evaluation one variant bearing LLM node at a time. Option C, replace evaluation with manual review so the team can use intuition. Option D, convert the flow to a batch endpoint before comparing prompt variants. The correct answer is option B, rerun the evaluation one variant bearing LLM node at a time.